two impartial police officers. I'm not sure if you have agreed, but I don't think you will mind. Our late past president, President Muhammad Buhari, said to me a couple of times, for all the IGs he has had to work with, no apologies because he said so. He said, Arase was the most outstanding. Let me also repeat, because as a Catholic, we are encouraged to do confession. When we are to constitute the campaign council for President Buhari's campaign organization, when I was national chairman of APC, we put Arase's name as chief security advisor to the campaign. And I was so happy to call him when somebody talking about his being principled. That is an understatement. I said, sir, I have good news. So what is it? I said, when you come. And then he insisted. I said, you know, if you are as short as I am and he's as tall as he is, even if he's retired, you will do well to be obedient. So I said, sir, the president wants you to be our campaign chief security officer to our campaign. So sorry, I will not be able to do that kind of role. I think it takes a level of courage and principle to say no to a sitting president. It takes a lot of conviction. The other is that, you know, when we give our chief a name, we should bear certain things in mind. Solomon really exhibited the wisdom of Solomon. If you remember the circumstance under which he was appointed IG, President Jonathan had lost election or he conceded defeat, for which he will always be remembered and appreciated. And then he had reasons to fire the then IG and name Arase as the IG. Just a week to another general election. I know what election system can be in Nigeria. And Arase deployed the wisdom of Solomon to conduct the last segment of the election, which involved governors and House of Assembly. And it is so admirably that neither of the parties had cause to complain that Arase was violent. I mean, Madam, I used to call you this PA. If Arase did longer, you can't be IG again. But I do understand that you were not just a wife, you were truly, truly very close, loving, and caring wife. Stand by the husband. There is nothing we are going to say that will reduce that body. But you have to appreciate, like somebody said, we are encouraged as believers, as Christians, that we should do more than say, this is the land. If we have all testified, and we have known that the voice of faith is the voice of God, he is not here to arrest us. When we say what we have said, he said to us of our commission. I'm sure God Almighty will create him, and who has decided to take him at this time, wherever as it is, we must have some consolation. But in paradise, he will have enough space to accommodate his height. Vertically and horizontally, he was well gifted. He will be resting, preparing us to arise so that he can protect us even there. May gentle souls rest in peace. And may the good Lord grant you the fortitude to live with the reality that whosoever shall be born shall die one day. This is the day God has chosen. And it's not up to what we in the Senate to take a vote on him. If we were to take a vote, Babangida know what the vote would have been. Those people that he should stay, those people that he will go. I'm sure we will vote that he should stay at the eye we have it. But we are not the overall. But you will be proud to say, my husband was so much harassing. They are your children. Even more proud to say, I am the son and daughter of the former IG who made friends across all the divide, including militants like us when I was president of the NSC. I was arrested by police several times, but the last thing when I meet him, he would always be smiling as if he's not behind the tear gas that were told the day before. He was a great man. They become even great thereafter. Thank you very much. Easy to overrun, comrade to overrun, but you get very valuable insight into the human being we are celebrating this evening. Thank you very much, Comrade Adam Soshomole. Also, please be
Lanre Arugunade. He's the Executive Director, International Press Center at the IPC. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Well, as we talk about those reforms, much of the debate seems to center on the next INEC chairman. And at that event that held earlier today, we just heard your soundbite. You talked about the true independence of the electoral body, which is named Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And, there's been that skepticism, despite or regardless of who's in charge as president. There's always that skepticism of transparency, fairness, accountability around who heads that body. Why is that so? And how can we get it right?
Well, there's Yoruba proverb that if you continue to have lice on your head, on your hair, you continue to have blood on your fingertips. I think it just shows that we're not yet there when we're talking about the processes. The successes that we've recorded as far as election management in Nigeria is concerned so far has likely been due to the character of the individuals in charge, who on their own believe that they need to carry out some level of integrity in the management of the process, introduce measures that can make the process much more transparent. So we can say that we have that trend from Jega to the current INEC chairman.
Yeah.
But we're looking at the process itself, because it's about the institution. So one of the proposals we're putting forward by way of what we call the Citizens Memorandum, for example, is that the criteria for appointing the chairman of INEC should be expanded and clearly spelled out. Because what we have now is just a person of integrity, and that integrity will always be defined by whoever is the incumbent president. But when you look at elections now, it involves technology, it involves management of resources, materials, deployment, and so on. So it will be good to have a much more broad-based criteria for us to determine. Then that process itself should not just be limited to the president or the presidency alone and the National Assembly. There are interest groups, the political parties themselves, the civil society organizations, the media, women organizations. The current trend is that the president only more or less gets the approval of the National Council of States, which we cannot say is representative of the entire society, because these are just former heads of state, some of whom had actually in the past.
But it goes to the National Assembly, which is representative of the people.
Yeah, it goes to the National Assembly, but don't forget that the National Assembly, because of produce something, have politicians there who, even if they have their way, will probably have an electoral act or electoral process that favors them. That is why we're saying that it is not just about the presidency, the Council of State, and the National Assembly, but also about the rest of the society, some of which I've already mentioned. They must have a say. As a matter of fact, the public must have a say. The reason why the judiciary in South Africa is very strong is that even the process of appointing judges in South Africa involves the people have a say. They bring information out about those who become judges, and anybody could come out based on what they know of that person and raise that objection. So we're calling for expansion of criteria. Now there's the dimension of the national commissioners. So you have the chairman of INEC, who in reality does not have much control over the national commissioner, because the national commissioners are appointed by the president and the National Assembly. The chairman of the commission does not even have a say. So you could actually have conflicts of interest. It's just like the security sector, where you see state governors are chief security officers, whereas they don't have a say on who becomes the commissioner of police in their state. So these are some of the anomalies in the process that we are saying should be corrected, so that through the office of the chairman of INEC, we can begin to see stronger elements of independence and ultimately impartiality in the management of the electoral process.
Well, some say the National Assembly should be vested with the power to appoint INEC chairman, and then we recall Justice Way's report, where he actually, that report recommends that the NGC or another independent body should handle such appointments. But is it really the fact that the president appoints the INEC chair
Is that what is the fundamental problem or the failure of oversight institutions to do their job, to ensure that INEC, whether they are appointed by the president or whoever, actually is, oversighted to ensure that they do what, what is required of them?
Well, so when you say INEC should be oversighted, in terms of what? Because again, part of the problem is that too many responsibilities are placed on INEC in terms of election management. INEC is supposed to do voter education. INEC is supposed to register political parties. INEC is supposed to prosecute electoral offenders, even when INEC does not have his own police or his own, DSS. These are part of the problem. So in terms of ensuring that the institution is more effective, part of the proposal is also that there should be unbundling of INEC itself. When it comes to voter education, we're saying let INEC share that responsibility with the National Orientation Agency. When it comes to offenses, let there be a political offenses commission. Now, part of the fear of the people really is that are we now again creating, more, bureaucracies? But there are solutions that you have to apply based on the exigencies of the times. And then we're also saying let there be a separate commission that registers political parties so that INEC could actually face the challenge of managing and conducting elections. We believe that if these steps are taken, then it will be better. And then the question of oversight will not now just be on INEC. You now have oversight on the Political Offences Commission, which will be at the level of the judiciary. You have oversight when it comes to civic and voter education and other, forms of oversight that is required to make it effective. We can't leave this thing entirely to the national.
We're running up.
Oh,
Very
okay.
quickly, honestly, the fact that 2027 general election will actually be managed by relatively new management. You mentioned, the National Commissioners earlier. Chairman is exiting in November. 5 national commissioners in 2026. Another 5 exiting on the eve of 2027 election. Is that something to even be worried about?
It's to be worried about, and that is also because there are no timelines when it comes to these appointments. It is not tenure; it's more or less left at the discretion of the president. So they come in at different times and they leave at different times, and that even affects the capacity of whoever is the chairman to manage the process because sometimes they don't have national commissioners. So all these things need to be tidied up, and our fear now is that we're running against time because some of these amendments require amending the constitution, some requires amending the electoral act, and all this would have to be concluded at least by March next year for those new legislations to take effect against 2027 elections.
Unfortunately, what we don't also have on the news tonight is time to take more. Mr. Larry Orubagade, Executive Director, International Press Center, thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
By taking reactions to Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's dramatic return to the National Assembly on Tuesday after a grueling 6-month suspension, the Kogi Central lawmaker arrived at the National Assembly complex, accompanied by a crowd of supporters just hours after her office in the Senate wing was unsealed. The senator's return wasn't without controversy. Speaking to journalists before entering her office, Akpoti-Uduaghan revealed she had learned of her reinstatement through news reports and social media videos rather than official communication from the National Assembly management.
I read on the news, online news, that our office has been opened. I even saw a video where the clerk was opening the door to the office himself. So as at this moment, I have not been officially communicated to, because I expect an institution like the National Assembly should have some administrative procedures and processes whereby communications will be written. The last written communication we got from the clerk was that which says that we are not allowed to resume because the case is at the appeal court. He also mentioned that it was within the purview of the Senate to lift this illegal suspension that had even already expired.
It was quite strange, Rufa. We were just talking about that. They didn't even tell her that the door was open. Well, hundreds of supporters of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan gathered at the National Assembly to welcome the returning lawmaker, but were barred from entering Parliament and dispersed with tear gas by security operatives. The supporters, who included activist and co-founder of the Bring Back Our Girls acting up. They were not. They were just there to welcome their lawmakers, their constituents. What do you call them?
They are representatives.
Well, all right. Well, immediately after resuming her office, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan launched a blistering attack on the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, accusing him of running the National Assembly like a dictatorship and treating her as his personal servant. The Kogi Central lawmaker made the explosive remarks while addressing journalists in her office. She described her 6-month ordeal as a test of resilience against institutional injustice.
In everything, it just shows that sometimes it's good to put the institutions to test. We can't cow down in the face of injustice. No one is more Nigerian than us. Senator Fabio is not more of a senator than I am. He's not a governor of this place. And he treated me as if I was his servant or I was a domestic staff in his house. It's very unfortunate that at this time, after so many years of democracy, we would have a National Assembly bill run by such dictatorship. It's totally unacceptable. As for me, I'm glad to be here. And even though we have been illegally suspended, no day have I hesitated in effectively carrying out my duties as a senator of Kogi Central to the very best of my capacity.
And we have seen that Ayo. She has been doing a job. Well, the fiery comeback has already set social media ablaze, with many anticipating fresh political battles within the Senate as Natasha's return promises to reignite tensions over Fabio's leadership style. I'll take a tweet. This person wrote on X. Another episode of the Senate reality show featuring Natasha versus Akpabio. Can we get back to real issues like minimum wage, ASO strikes, and insecurity? Natasha says she was treated like a servant, but millions of Nigerians are treated worse daily by a system she's part of. Maybe start fighting for them, not just for respect in the Senate. The Senate is turning into a personal battlefield. Nigerians are tired of watching elites fight for relevance while the country burns. Another ex-user wrote, I express my admiration and commendation for your courage in standing up for your beliefs. It is indeed unfortunate and unjust that we are faced with governance by authoritarian figures, which undermines the strength of our institutions, thus weak institutions. I mean, I think I like that tweet. I'll come over to you. I believe that this story has come again in the front burner. And like, the other Twitter user alluded to, there's going to be another version of a Natasha versus Akpabio saga, because obviously she did accuse him of dictatorship and treating her like a servant. But I don't know what your thoughts are with, the fact that they tear gassed her people, her constituents that were there, and the fact that, they unsealed her office without her knowledge.
So we found out about the unsealing of her office when we were on air. So we, in the newsroom, virtual newsroom, we shows that the sergeant at arms and the clerk of the Senate had gone to make a show of unsealing her office, and from her interview, we then discovered that she wasn't even informed. And they put us in that situation as to, okay, this unsealing, does it mean that the Senate is now willing to receive her? Does it mean they're setting aside the court case which they had cited as the reason why they could not admit her following the end of her suspension? A number of questions around this. And if we're going to build strong institutions, which we continuously advocate here on this table, we have to ensure that we get to the bottom of this. It's not enough for us to just wake up one morning and all is forgiven, kumbaya, let's move on. And that's important, because like some of the earlier ex-user said that now it's just a joke, we're making a joke of the Senate, whereby serious issues ought to be debated on the floor of the Senate. However, I dare say that this is a serious issue, because if we don't get it right, we'll continue to see matters like this emerge and graceful actions on different parts and different ways from the Senate. So I think it's important to get to the bottom of this. However, I do believe that, as Justice Peter Ayako had said, the people of Kogi Central deserve representation. And it is a shame that in the last 6 months, their voices were literally silenced, because there was no voice We are too used to using, these forceful actions to disperse citizens of Nigeria. Citizens who, despite all challenges, continue to exercise their rights and show support because they wanted their voices heard, and then they were tear gas. For what reason? Did they behave in a disruptive manner? Were they disrupting any legislative proceedings, which, by the way, they are not there on recess? So I want to understand why tear gas was used on the people. Let's not get used to nonsense. Let's not get used to bad behavior. I think it's very important to state that. But that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Dogan is there. I'm glad she said she continued to work for her constituents. Let us get work done. Let them come back from their long recess and actually begin to represent the interests of those who have put their trust in them by electing them to represent them in the Senate. That's what we want to see. But lastly, I want to say this. Beyond Senator Natasha Akpoti-Dogan, the reason why this was very important was we're not just fighting for the person. As often say, we're fighting for the institution or fighting for the position.
Okay,
It can
yes.
be Senator Natasha Akpoti-Dogan today. It can be someone else tomorrow. And
Okay.
if we don't speak up, we will continue to see this kind of undemocratic actions, almost dictatorial in its nature, happen in the Senate, and that's not what we want. We are defending Nigeria's institution, not just an individual.
All right. Well, the territory just on WIKE has been dragged before the United States government over alleged unlawful acquisition of multi-million-dollar properties in Florida. Activists were in a petition dated September 22, 2025, as the Florida Attorney General James Butler to prosecute Mr. WIKE for alleged money laundering and to initiate forfeiture proceedings against the assets. We have with us here in the studio to help make sense of this. We have Prince Francis Chilaka, he's a political affairs analyst, and we'll also be joined by Honorable Jofoy Igwa, who happens to be former member at River State House of Assembly. He's a politician, known as the public affairs analyst. And from Abuja, we'll be joined by Adai Edwin Adai. He is an executive secretary of African Institute for Statecraft International, and also a politician too. And we'll also talk to Honorable Dr. Jude Emeka Omobowale Idumogu. He's in diaspora and joining us. He happens to be a former member of Lagos State House of Assembly, and he represented Oshodi, his solo constituency too, here in Lagos State. Good morning, Prince Francis Chilaka. Good morning. Please have you join today's viewing this morning. Honorable Dr. Jude Emeka Omobowale, good morning, if you can hear me. All right, Honorable Adai Edwin Adai, good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, people. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Honorable Joffrey Batu, good morning. Good time to join today's conversation. All right, Prince Francis, let me start off with you. When you make of this particular petition by Sean Wick to the U.S. telling them that they should investigate property acquisition made by a Nigerian minister, this particular thing, according to what we gathered, was transaction happening in 2021. That was actually
I think what should is true. Good morning, Nigerians. Actually, I'm feeling like from just Plateau State, not Abuja this time around. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that this is a welcome development. But I'd like to start by saying that when it comes to equity must come with clean hands. You cannot be parading yourself as a champion of democracy. You are parading yourself as a man of integrity. You are parading yourself as one of the transformational leaders we have in Nigeria today. We talk about how you are a man of integrity, you are a man of honor. We talk down on other politicians. You always use words like it is very unfortunate we are having this crop of leaders in Nigeria manning critical positions. Only to find out that, although the publication is not real with all due respect, the rumor has been ongoing, and some of us were privy to some of this information. But of course, there is no time that is too late for us to probe into, the activities of our politicians who are in government. So I think it's a welcome development. We must begin to question our leaders to really understand and to exactly know how were they able to generate this kind of money. $5 million is not a small money anywhere. Even in America, it's not small money. Convert that money to Nigerian naira, it's a whole lot of billions of naira. And therefore, if you're a public office holder and you are transacting people, the process of the transaction alone is questionable. And therefore, I think that it's a welcome development. We look forward to see this kind of engagement where particular political office holders are taking to court. They have been able to acquire. How they have been able to acquire it and all of that.
Interesting, you said taking to court. Does it feel out of place that Omoyele Oshomore decides to start this court issue from America and not from Nigeria? Does that make you feel some kind of way? Does that point to the fact that there's lost trust in the Nigerian judiciary?
Well, you see, whether you like it or not, let's face the reality. Fortunately and sadly, whether you like it or not, as a politician, we live in Nigeria, we understand what is going on in the court right now. Yes, we cannot blame the court holistically, but if you are say it the way it is, I can tell you that a very sizable number of Nigerians, we have lost confidence in the court or in the entire judiciary in Nigeria, which is unfortunate. We saw what happens to Samuel Ekpa in Finland, and we are seeing what is happening to Nnamdi Kanu. We have seen a lot of political cases and the way they treated it. And we cannot continue to pride ourselves as champions of democracy, and we are not adhering to the principle of democracy. And one of the principles of democracy is upholding the rule of law. When the laws are not properly working the way it should, when actions don't have consequences, I mean, we should be able to try other places. If we can get justice from other places, we will not really trust the fact that the Nigerian court process can give us the kind of verdict that we are looking forward to seeing. Sincerely speaking, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay, but it's quite unfortunate. It is quite unfortunate that a politician is asking us to outsource our judiciary, to foreigners. And that is what I've seen recent times. We go back to PIB and all of that. Okay, thank you very much, Ebina. Now, I'll wait for you to stay with us. We'll come back to you. Now, let's go to Oka, where we still have been joined by Honorable Ejiofor Egwuatu, the former member of Anambra State House of Assembly, politician and public affairs analyst, and is someone that has played around the government. Good morning to you, Honorable Ejiofor Egwuatu.
I greet you especially.
Beautiful. Good to see you once again. Now, you have played in government. You have been a member of the House of Assembly. Now, WIKE says that house was acquired by my in-laws and given to my children, my family member. I want us to take that away. You have been a member of the House of Assembly. Do you think that a Nigerian governor, from the perks of office, his salaries, all that he gets, legitimately, should be able to acquire a $2 million mansion in any part of the world? Is there a possibility that with his legitimate earnings as a governor, that he should be able to acquire that kind of apartment?
Well, I wouldn't want to start calculating the legitimate earnings of any Nigerian governor or any Nigerian public officer, but there are facts that are sacred that we need to observe. First of all, there are procedures for declaration of assets, stating whatever you have, where you had it, how you had it. Everything follows a particular process. And then if you are declaring your assets, you are expected to list everything that you have at every point. So the question we should be asking is, even if this is a gift, this is something that is coming from a very wealthy in-laws, relatively wealthy in-laws, and all the rest of them, they were given to this family, and then you are expected to say, this is how it is, through a legal process in Nigeria here. So he hasn't told us that he acquired those things from being a governor. So we shouldn't go to that governor's side.
No, exactly the point, Honorable. When I asked you, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, Honorable. Honorable, I asked you a question. You asked yourself, I answered yourself. You didn't answer the question. Now we understand all of that, the process, asset declaration. That is not the question I asked. Maybe you don't want to answer the question. The question I asked, do you think that a governor, by his legitimate earnings, perch of office, should be able, we're not talking about WIKE now in particular, should be able to acquire a mansion worth $2 million in any part of the world? We're out of WIKE now as a governor. You know government, you have been a member. When you make approval as appropriation, do you think that what a governor receives should be able to get him a $2 million mansion?
It depends on when. Okay. It depends on when. Because the dollar is now, it might be too difficult, but whatever. There was a time dollar was almost something close to naira. So it depends on when. Okay. So that's not really the actual thing about this matter that I really want to talk about.
I just asked, and you have offered an explanation. You have given an answer. Now go ahead. Yes. Stand on your
now, what baffles me about this is the other side of it, that is the non-reliance on Nigerian judicial system, Nigerian investigative agencies, and all the rest of them. This is a big problem that we need to tackle as quickly as possible. People at the very low level, not just people who want to question government or question governance or government officials, people at the very low level are losing confidence in the Nigerian investigative agencies, the police, the DSS. They feel that these agencies are being manipulated, and people are resorting to all manner of things, all manner of ways to resolve issues. And this is a very big disadvantage to our democracy. These investigative agencies ought to be as independent as they ought to be, so that the people can have confidence to bring their matters there. It is causing a lot of problems, and it's not just about WIKE and the Sowore matter. No. It's about all the people in Nigeria. Most people are losing confidence in the police. The people don't feel free to go to police to give information about certain criminals or criminal activities because they think that their bubbles will be busted.
Okay, now, Honorable Sowore has taken up the gauntlet. He's gone to the United States of America. Yes. Do you think that something will come out of this? Do you think that something will come out of this? I mean, if he has evidence, he has gone to court in the U.S. What do you think will be the outcome of this investigation, the court case?
The good thing about the United States judicial system is that they must have a response to it as quickly as they could. They must have a response. It's not as if there's not going to be adjournment and indefinite adjournments without response. So I know that once they present their matters, well, there must be a response to it. We must have a final conclusion. There must be a closure on the whole matter. So we trust that the United States Judiciary will do justice to it.
I'm happy that you're saying you trust the United States judicial system, that it will do something, they will do justice to this particular case. Now, when you're talking about, I want to get a bit personal. Now, let's get this straight. You as a politician, can you comfortably say that you still have faith in the Nigerian judicial system as a politician?
If I have faith as a person,
as a politician in Nigerian judicial system?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because the Nigerian judicial system has over time, in certain ways, destroyed that confidence that we have in them. And in other ways, in some other matters, they have really tried to be as bold as they ought to be. But generally, it is not a 60% win. They are below average.
Below average. Thank you so much.
Well, some will say it is the politicians that infiltrated the judiciary and made the judiciary what it is today. Well, let me bring you back to Prince Francis Chilaka. Let's talk about the visa ban. Is that enough punitive measure for an alleged corrupt politician, where we know that the properties, of course, and the monies stashed abroad will remain in those economies?
Unfortunately, Nigerians are not learning the political class, are not learning. When I say they're not learning, they keep enriching foreign nations while inflicting things, poverty and hunger on their own people. You look from here, you send it abroad. Don't forget that most times these funds are not even sent in their names. They're sent through proxies. So when you begin to trace it,
so are you now saying, are you alluding to the fact that the family of the wife were basically acting as proxies for the man himself in this case?
some weeks back, we also heard about land grabbing in Abuja that involved the same man and his family.
Which he has denied.
It doesn't matter whether he denies it or not. Behind every rumor, there's an element of truth. You can't throw that away. So why is it that he is the same person involved? He's involved in the shenanigans that happened in River State. He's involved in land grabbing in Abuja. Now he's involved in property in the US. So something is wrong somewhere. But coming back to your question, visa ban, how many of them want to even go to America? That's the question. How many of them want to go to America? When you have St. Lucia that has been opened up, you have Brazil that has been opened up, so you have Colombia. So how many of them want to go to America?
Well,
Yes, American government will always come out and say, we will do this.
thank you very much.
And it's in their own place to do it. It's because it is within their own laws to say, you cannot trouble people. But the question is, do they also help to investigate and find out where these funds are kept?
That's the question.
All right, then. Well, we've been joined by Honorable Dr. Jude Emeka Omobowale Idumogu. He was a former member, Lagos State House of Assembly, represented Oshodi Solo constituency. And Honorable, I guess you call you Honorable, even though you've left us with our problems here in Nigeria, you've gone abroad. Well, thanks for joining the conversation this morning, Honorable Idumogu. Now, you have been in the abroad, you've been in the system there. What is the process, quickly if you can, take us through the process of property acquisition, especially when it's done in cash? Shouldn't there be, certain agencies that would, raise eyebrow when such is done? And when those eyebrows are raised and people are fingered, what is done to ensure that those funds are not corrupt funds, and if they are not allowed to remain in those economies?
I joined you late, so please, you can pardon me. Let me follow up what is going on so I can comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, the conversation is winding down already, as it is. So we're talking about Minister of the FCT, WIKE, and the acquisition of properties in America, properties in the name of his 3 children, which he said were acquired by his in-laws and given to his own children. And of course, he's been taken to courts. He's been taken to a U.S. court there by Omoyele Sowore, and he's asked to account for such. That's the conversation.
Well, there's a difference between here and there in Nigeria. Here, there's no respect of person. The law takes course here. The law takes its course. If you are indicted, in fact, the truth is that you irrespective of who you are, you go to jail.
How easy is it to acquire properties, especially to the tune of over $500 million in cash?
In cash. Through some agents, of course, in everywhere, there's always some element, some people who also dare the law, dare the law in whatever they do here. But the issue, of course, that's why I say the present government, Donald Trump government, is going after a lot of criminal people that have criminal tendencies, or those that they know that have actually committed crime or that is suspect. So, but the bottom line is the police are working, other agencies, FBI are working in this place. So the tendency is that when you are, of course, there's crime everywhere. The difference is that when you are caught, of course, going through cash is difficult, but people who always wants to make some profit in everything. When you compare with that, the cash, the money involved also is big. You cannot go through the normal banking system because they ask questions. They want to route it through another way. And like you say, we're all human beings. There are people that want to tell the system. But the difference here is that when you are caught, you pay for it. That's just it.
Now, in situations whereby individuals are found wanting, are found to be guilty, do you think a visa ban is enough punitive measure? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, you seem to have some sort of distraction there. All right. I think you're just waking up because that's what it feels like. Talking about Honorable Judy Dumogu. Well, let's get back to Adai, Edwin Adai in Jos. Now that's where he's talking to us from. Edwin Adai. Now, how do you see this play out? Is this an exercise in futility and backed upon by Omoyele Sowore, whom some have also said that he's somebody's lapdog. Some have said some individuals, some people abroad are paying him to do the things that he is doing. How do you see this play out?
Well, I think first and foremost, like one of the guests, I just want to align to his thought because number one, this is an indictment to the anti-graft agency in Nigeria. It is an indictment on all the agencies saddled with the responsibility of doing their due diligence in ensuring that corrupt politicians are exposed. We cannot run a system where, how did we even get to a system where a politician can literally amass that kind of humongous amount of money and then launder that huge amount of money undetected? The word is undetected. The money flew from Nigeria and then landed in America, entered American economy. Even the American government need to be questioned. It is not enough for us to say, it is just a wiki. How did the money? What are the processes? What are the procedures? You and I know that kind of humongous transaction cannot happen without the aid of the government, without the aid of the banks. And I do not think that the system is so vulnerable, so much so that such transaction will go on without any major agency detecting it. I think it's a thing of concern. It is not enough for us to just beam on yes or WIKE alone. We must also look at the vulnerability of our economy. We must also look at the vulnerability of our financial institutions. We must also look at the acceptability and the aiding of some of these foreign agencies in helping to launder money from Nigeria to other countries of the world. So this is not about yes or WIKE alone. We should also question the system. We should also question the American government. We should also question the institution of major banks in Nigeria that aided such transactions. Because yes or WIKE cannot unilaterally, whether by omission or commission, embark on such a transaction undetected. So for me, it is not enough for us to say, okay, let us look at the pros and cons. But I think it is an eye-opener for us to ask some fundamental questions. And therefore, if Sowore is the person that God wants to use to expose some of this abnormality and some of this vulnerability in our economy and our political system, and also understand, you know, the connections, how, you know, banks and major institutions do illicit business. I think it is a welcome development. For me, it's going to open up a more conversation.
When you said,
to be swept under the carpet,
when you said,
do the diligence in ensuring that this thing does not go down the drain. We must ensure that we do everything humanly possible. The responsibility that this thing does not go down the drain is not on the institutions who are part of it. The responsibility lies on us as citizens of Nigeria.
okay, us as citizens of Nigeria,
And
now,
the media,
not too long
media
ago.
to ensure that
Yes, that's why we're talking about it. That's why we're talking about it. Yes, thank you very much for your.
Yes, the conversation is that anyway, the passing of Arase from IG of Nigeria was alluded by Adam Surumode. He had praises on him. Amazing. However, going forward, we are seeing the appointment of INEC chairman and the Arato about it. Should president appoint him or not? If they appoint him, they employ in the electoral system. They are saying Council of State, you pass through Council of State to Parliament. What do you think about all these things? Going forward, you are seeing Asoro are indicted to Florida and US government to investigate him. I got $2 million to buy a house in US, Florida. Whoever the event says that the house was given to his children and wife by his in-law. That was amazing. They had many people who talk about it. A former legislator in Lagos State, representing Oshodi Solo Division, now living in US. Donatis is artist. What think about it? How nobody can spare by the US government. If one wanted, the person will go to jail, he said. Going forward, a man from Jos also asked a question. He said, is a way person that God used to expose all these politicians. It's so be it. Hello that all this is went on like this because he had lost confidence in Nigeria democracy, in Nigeria judiciary system. That's why he took it upon himself to fly the case to Florida. So that's what happened. Share thought about all these things. Share the thought about it's not going on in Nigeria politics. So do subscribe to my channel on Free Brown. And follow me also on Facebook, Emoji Comedy and Emoji Comedy Plus. Don't forget to follow me also on TikTok, Emoji Onfree. Thank you and God bless.